This is pretty wild. The Johnson wants to have the U.S. punish the ICC for doing its job in issuing arrest warrants for Netanyahu. It is insane how the U.S. thinks that the Israeli government is above any international law. This goes against the United States, saying that the Israeli government follows all international laws and that they're the good guys here. If you were if you were okay with international laws, then you'd be okay with these arrest warrants. And if you were following international law, you'd be able to prove your case and have the arrest warrants dismissed. The fact that the United States and the Israeli government is so against these arrest warrants shows that the Israeli government has not been following international law, and it's also, pretty obvious that they don't follow international law. That's one reason why the Israeli government is stealing land from the West Bank and selling it off to people, which is a violation of international law, as well as, the Israeli government killing journalists, that's against international law, aid workers, that's against international law, kidnapping and torturing people, that's against international law. Yet the Israeli government does all this and blatantly.
Something that we have been united against is not only the growing anti-Semitism and the growing movement against Israel's right to self-defense, which we have strongly supported, but now you see the International Criminal Court trying to arrest the Prime Minister of Israel for defending his country against.
No, that's a plain out lie right there. He's the arrest warrant isn't for defense of the Israeli nation. It's for committing crimes against civilians and Gaza. And nobody's against the Israeli government's right to self-defense. They're against the Israeli government collectively punishing Palestinians with starvation, killing innocent civilians. That's the issue here. But all the defenders of the Israeli government and their genocide constantly want to claim that people speaking out against the Israeli government is speaking out against their right to self-defense. That is not the case, and anybody who does that is just plain out lying.
A terrorist organization who on October 7th engaged war in barbaric ways against the people of Israel. This is a rogue agency. I know this.
Wow. They had no issue with the ICC issuing arrest warrants for Putin. The ICC wasn't called a rogue agency but somehow now when it's Netanyahu, the ICC becomes the bad guys here, which is pretty hilarious. And it just goes to show how the United States thinks the Israeli government is above all laws.
Majority has taken many steps against it. We're going to continue to take actions. But we also are calling on our friends around the world that are helping fund the ICC to stop funding an organization that has become heavily anti-Israel, would ultimately be anti-American too, if they had to.
Wow, being anti-Israel means you're anti-American? How does that make any sense whatsoever? Because the Israeli government is not the American government. But this dude is claiming that's the case, that uh, the United States government and the Israeli government are so intertwined that they're basically the same thing. And that's not the case whatsoever. They're two separate governments, and there is no issue with being against a government, being against the Israeli policies and what they're doing. Also doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic. It just means you're against the policies in place. It's like being against the policies that the United States has, where they will just mass murder any civilian in a nation that they don't like. Being against that doesn't make you anti-American, and anybody speaking out about it around the world doesn't mean they're racist or anti-American.
That opportunity. Um, somebody who would probably talk more about that is our speaker, Mike Johnson.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leader, and Whip, and our Vice Chairman, Blake Moore.
This dude is hilarious. Uh, because he's known for having his son, who's like 17, be his porn buddy, meaning or anti-porn buddy. Uh, if either one of them watches porn, they get a notification on their phone or whatever, and what I guess they talk about what kind of porn they've been watching. That is very weird. Why would you have your kid be your anti-porn buddy?
Is filling in for Elise, who's a little under the weather this morning, our conference chair. Glad y'all are here. Lots of things going on around the world, and let me address first, it's top of mind for us, the death of the passing of Iran's president. We would just say clearly that the world is a little bit safer place this morning because of that. He was clearly a malign force to the Iranian people and to Israel and the West. While he engaged in torture and terror, the International Criminal Court, I think it's important to note this morning, maybe ironically, they never targeted him or even considered arresting him. But
Oh, is this why the is this why certain people in the United States is upset with the ICC because they didn't go after Iran? Like, come on. This is just extremely childish.
instead, what we see right now is the ICC has chosen to target Israel with baseless and illegitimate arrest warrants, and it's attempting to equate Israel's just war for its existence with the horrific acts of the October 7th massacre. To us, this
That is not going on whatsoever. Nobody's equating Hamas and the Israeli government. Hamas is being punished for its own crimes and having arrests issued for their leaders, just like how the Israeli government is being punished for their crimes and having arrest warrants issued for the crimes that they committed.
is just unconscionable. You have international bureaucrats. We're not going to allow them to use warfare to undermine state sovereignty or usurp the authority of democratic nations.
Right, which is what the Israeli government is doing, trying to usurp the sovereignty of the Palestinian civilians by claiming they get to do whatever they want to Palestinian civilians and claiming that they can't have a state because that's what they want. That's not very democratic, and the fact that the Israeli government loves to punish people in the media for reporting on what the Israeli government is doing, as well as kidnapping Palestinians and torturing them, which there's been several IDF members who have come out and said that the Israeli government is torturing people, which is one reason why there's a lot of Palestinians coming out of detentions who haven't been charged or tried for anything. Having missing limbs or broken bones and stuff like that.
America should punish the ICC and put Karim Khan back in his place. And if the ICC is allowed to threaten Israel's leaders, we know that America will be next. There is a
Wow, wow, coming straight out. We know America is going to be next because America also commits various crimes against people around the world. Yeah, this is the only reason why they're against the ICC for issuing arrest warrants against Bibi Netanyahu, because Biden and others are worried that they're going to have arrest warrants for themselves for supporting the Israeli government, as well as their own crimes that they've committed. And once the arrest warrants are issued for these people, that means there's very few nations that they can travel to because like 100 and something states are signatories of the ICC. The United States isn't one, which there's a very good reason for that, and that's because they do commit a lot of war crimes.
reason that we've never endorsed the International Criminal Court, because it is a direct affront to our own sovereignty. We don't put any international body among or above American sovereignty, and Israel.
Well, that's unless it's against a nation that you don't like Russia, which the United States had no issue with the ICC issuing warrants for Putin, and Biden supported that. So yeah, the uh, The United States does put an international body above all else.
Israel doesn't do that either. Congress is reviewing all of our options right now. We have some very aggressive legislation that we're going to push as quickly as possible. It will impose sanctions. And if the ICC moves forward with its absurd warrant arrest or request, this is going to be an even bigger international problem.
More than likely, the United States, besides issuing sanctions, is probably going to try to go to war with the ICC for going against their wishes. This is because the United States actually thinks they're above any kind of law whatsoever, and that the world has to bow down to their whims and what they dictate. If a group is considered a terrorist by the United States, the world has to consider them a terrorist, because if the world doesn't follow the whims of the United States is going to get violent with them.
Regarding the border, sadly, international bureaucrats are not